I think we're recording. Are we recording? Okay. Yeah. What is up, everybody? We are back here with the second episode of the Itrad Fantasy 2022 podcast. Fresh off of draft day on, what was it, Monday, right? Monday, we had our draft. Pretty interesting draft, to say the least. We saw some winners. We saw some losers. We saw some steals. We saw some reaches. We saw everything that you could have seen in a fantasy draft, really. So I'm here with my co-host, Eddie Hernandez, a.k.a. Kamish, and another familiar face that you've seen plenty of times on the podcast, owner of, what's your team name? Oh, yeah, Castro's Palace. Matthew Castro here with us, featuring his Drake London background on there. And who is that? Allen Robinson in your background? Yeah, that's me. All right, so before we get started, we're gonna do a little introduction to this segment we got going on first. So we're featuring a new segment here called Roses and Thorns. So here's what we're gonna do. So for anybody that isn't familiar with that kind of concept, each of us here have 4 teams that we're gonna go over, analyze, dissect, whatever you want to call it. We're gonna start off with all the good that these owners did in the draft, all the potential they have for the season, everything basically that can go right for this team. You know, all the possible range of outcomes for them, and then right after that, we're gonna go through the bad. Right, so we're gonna just say where they, I guess, went wrong in the draft, where things are going to go wrong for them in the season, and basically the worst possible outcome for them for this season. And so we're gonna start off. Anyone want to go first, or?
Don't matter. I'm ready. If you want to kick it off.
All right, I'll kick it off. So up first, I'll go first. So remember, everybody has 4 teams, right? So I'll start off. I'm gonna start off with Nick's team. All right. So let me pull it up here so I can get prepared for this. Is Castro still in the call? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just shot.
All right, so here we got bad vibes forever, right? Nick Elias, back-to-back runner-up these past 2 seasons. Really heartbreaking to see that. Nick may be putting on a Buffalo Bills 90s performance here. Can he go to 3 championships and lose all 3? Maybe. So starting off here, looking at Nick's team. So round 1, he took. Well, let me double screen this. Round 1, Nick went with Dalvin Cook, which is a pick that I liked. He went pretty strong. He took Chubb 2. I think he went Mike. Yeah, he went Mike Evans round 3. Round 4, he went AJ Brown. I'm not gonna go through his whole draft, but looking at his team, you know, he's got Trey Lance, Dalvin Cook, Chubb, Mike Evans, AJ Brown, Kittle, AJ Dillon, Bills D, Lutz. He's got some depth on the bench. He's got Ayuk, Julio, Treylon Burks, Jamal Williams, Christian Watson, Alec Pierce, Zamir White. So the thing I like about this team to start off, I like the trio he's got going on in San Fran. He's got Trey Lance at QB. He's got Kittle at his tight end. And he's got Ayuk on the bench. So all the reports out of camp have been that Ayuk has been Lance's favorite target. Apparently, they built this connection. Apparently, you know, Debo was the guy back when Jimmy Garoppolo was under center, because Garoppolo was the guy that got the ball out quickly, didn't really move around, you know. And Debo's that rat guy, like closer towards the line of scrimmage. But apparently, Ayuk and Trey Lance have been building this connection. You know, I really like Dalvin Cook as well. You know, there's supposed to be a high octane offense this year. They got the new head coach. I forget what his name is. But Vikings supposed to be scoring a lot of points this year. You know, Dalvin Cook is a guy who has always been, you know, a top fantasy back since he's entered the league. He's got a lot of potential to go off this year. Nick Chubb, another guy who he's split in the backfield with Kareem Hunt, but that's really never hurt him too much. He's always been a viable fantasy option. Maybe now a little less with Deshaun Watson suspended, but last year they had poor QB play. They got it to start off this year, so I don't think enough is going to change for him. really strong wide receiver stack to go with George Kittle as well. I just really think Nick's got a lot of guys on his team that are going to be like a very big focal point of their offenses going forward. Trey Lance has that mobility. He could be the possible Jalen Hurts of last year. You know, even if you're a shit QB in real life, you could be a great fantasy option. So I feel like his team's really strong just all around when you look at it. AJ Dillon at his flex spot. Don't really know what's going to happen there. Apparently, Aaron Jones is going to be taking a lot of more of the receiving role in the backfield. But overall, like his team, like when looking at it straight up, I think he's a playoff team easily. I think his bench is pretty deep. He's got Ayuk on the bench. Julio, I don't know if Julio will be that good this year in fantasy, but Treylon Burks was the highest rated rookie out of preseason. So maybe he has a little breakout year. He takes up that A.J. Brown role if he's healthy all year. And Christian Watson is a guy who I think will be a late season bloomer as well. But I just think Nick's team has a lot of potential, especially if Lance finds his way, the 49ers turn up. That'll be a really scary team down the stretch for sure. Now, going into Thorns here on Nick's team. Now, just as good as that trio can also be his downfall here. You know, if Trey Lance sucks, all the other 49ers on his team are going to suck. You know, Kittle's not getting the yards and touchdowns. Ayuk's not getting anything. And Lance just overall sucks, even in fantasy and real life. Well, that team's probably going downhill a little bit. Nick Chubb is a guy who doesn't have that much receiving upside, I guess to say. Now, I said before how Baker Mayfield was shit QB last year. They got Brissett this year, who, I mean, I would also count as a downgrade. Maybe not too much of a downgrade, but so much to the point where I don't think anyone's really going to be fearing Cleveland's passing attack. I mean, they still got a top whole line, but if they just go all in on the run, you know, not really great news for Chubb. I don't really have that much negative to say about Dalvin Cook. I think he's going to be good no matter what. But A.J. Brown is in an offense that is the most run-heavy offense in the league, with a QB who has not been that great passing-wise. He may be just a guy that gets you 1,000 yards, maybe 5 or 6 touchdowns if Jalen Hurts really doesn't take that step forward passing. And then A.J. Dillon at the flex spot, I don't really like that too much. I feel like it's a little weak there, but he could put Ayuk in that flex spot. But yeah, pretty much. I mean, Treylon Burks, if he doesn't break out, Christian Watson, another rookie, if they don't break out, he really doesn't have that much going on his bench really to fill in that flex role. So I feel like there's a lot of upside for this team, but as much upside, there's downside with it. So
solid analysis.
who would like to go next?
What do you think, Cass? Do you want to go? Maybe I should go. This kid's shot.
Can you hear us, Kasha?
His mic's muted. Unmute your mic, man.
All right, Ed, you go. Ed, you start off.
All right, word. All right, let me just pull up the roster here. And we will be looking at, first here, the Cardiac Kids, our good pal Julian. So Julian had the second overall pick. We'll take a look at his roster here. Start with the Roses section, and the easiest one to pick here, Justin Jefferson. You know, bit controversial of a pick over CMC, but as someone who was burned by CMC in years past, you can kind of understand, you know, he wants to change it up, try something new. Justin Jefferson, I mean, by all accounts, should be the wide receiver 1 at the end of the season. His projected usage is pretty much like unparalleled. Could be similar to what we saw with Cooper Kupp last year. And honestly, he's banking on him to, you know, be the rose of his team, to just kind of carry him throughout the season. Other things I like about his team, I think Tyreek Hill, where he got him, was a solid value. You know, obviously Miami gave up a lot to get him. They want to get the ball in his hands. He should be their best playmaker. I don't know if we see the same, you know, long vertical touchdowns. I think we might see a little bit more volume for him, maybe some shorter passes, which isn't a bad thing. He's still going to be a very viable option. And then he followed that pickup with another person I like a lot, Mark Andrews. last year absolutely lit the world on fire. It's kind of weird that came in large part without Lamar Jackson. So we can kind of tie that into a thorn a little bit too. Third round, that's a pretty high price for a tight end. And, he didn't really show that with Lamar Jackson. So there is the possibility Andrews was a bit of a reach there. He kind of paid for his ceiling. And there's a good chance we don't necessarily see that. But I'm going to keep Andrews as more of a, I don't know, optimistic view here. I think he should be a shoe-in for 1,000 yards, hopefully 8 touchdowns. But I think there is a slight chance that, his production kind of drops based on what we saw last year. Other things I like about his team, honestly, I kind of like his bench a lot. I think Kareem Hunt is the better Cleveland back to have, at least for the first half of the year. You kind of touched on Brissett a little bit already, I think, at some point. He's not a guy who's going to push the ball down the field a lot. Kareem Hunt is going to see every third down snap. I think he should be a shoe-in for 5 targets a game. Still probably 8 to 12 carries as well. Right now he has him on his bench, but I think to start the year he might be better off putting him in at his RB2 spot. But we'll get into that in a little bit when we talk about Thorns. I really like Chris Olave. I think he could be someone who kind of takes that step here as a rookie, kind of like we saw with Waddle last year. And I love David Njoku. He's probably not ever going to see his lineup with Mark Andrews. But honestly, out of all Browns players to have, I think Njoku is going to be the one who kind of blossoms with Jacoby Brissett the most, at least early on in the year. And then you have the prospect that, Watson comes back, returns to form. He could be someone who really delivers, in the fantasy playoffs. And I'll touch on one more player because I really like him a lot, and I wanted him myself. Joshua Palmer. Right now, he's the Chargers' wide receiver 3. But if anything were to happen to either Keenan Allen or... Is this still working? Can you hear me? I'm going to assume you can still hear me.
Yeah, go on. I was just on the phone.
All right. Word. Joshua Palmer. So if anything were to happen to either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, he is a shoe-in, to fill in that role. He could either, produce in the slot role that Keenan Allen has or on the outside where Mike Williams is. In that Chargers high-octane offense, he's someone, as a late-round pick, you probably got him in round 12 or 13. He could really deliver if things were to break right for him. So those were the good things about Julian's team. We'll look at some of the thorn aspects here. They stick out like a sore thumb at RB1 and 2. We have Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Dameon Pierce, who were, both taken, not back-to-back, but right at the 4-5 turn. If you want to look at things from the optimistic point of view, you have the starting running back of 2 NFL teams. But if we're being realistic here, we'll start with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They have, I believe, 4 backs on their 53-man roster. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Ronald Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, and I want to say, what's his name? He used to be at Minnesota. Anyway, they use him on third down. To me, Clyde Edwards, he probably gets the early down usage. There's no guarantee he gets the goal line work. There's no guarantee he even gets the third down work. I think for taking him in the 4th round, it is really, really uncertain how they're going to use him. Last year, his rookie year, obviously underperformed. Betting a 4th round pick on him, I just don't see a world in which that pays off. And then Dameon Pierce, yes, he's the unquestioned lead back on the Texans. But, how many scoring opportunities are we really going to see here for the Texans? And the fact that Rex Burkhead is still around kind of makes me wonder how much usage he's going to get in the passing game. Ultimately, these are 2 clear players that are going to bust for him when it's all said and done. Christian Kirk, he got that big contract in the offseason. He projects to be their lead target. But until we see something from Trevor Lawrence, trusting him as your opening day flex, to me, I'd rather have him on the bench. Maybe he's someone who blossoms down the stretch and you could, use in trade conversation or potentially start him later on. But, I think this is a relatively weak opening day lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if week 1 he was among the lowest scorers of the week. There were better options for him at quarterback. He kind of forced the stack with Kirk Cousins and Jefferson, which I'm not crazy about. I think he could have done better there. And overall, I'd say I'm more pessimistic than optimistic on this roster, which we'll kind of touch on a little bit later.
All right, Castro, you're up.
Okay, you hear me?
Yeah, we'll do our three. We'll see how long we go here. We'll do our three teams last, possibly last. We might skip them if we're taking too long.
Word.
Oh, don't worry. I'll keep this short and sweet. Face ass. The first team that I'm going to pick apart, I have Black Sheep, Kenny's team. So you start off with what you like, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So what I like about this team is that really this team I feel like is just was like a value team. I mean, like for some reason, like Kenny actually drafted pretty well. Aaron Rodgers, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones. Those are some really good players at those positions. They could finish as a top 10 in each position. Austin Eckler obviously probably going to finish top 5. Aaron Jones is the best offensive weapon for Aaron Rodgers this year, in my opinion. T. Higgins as a wide receiver 1. I like that too. Like I said, I think this team was literally just an entire value team. On the bench, I actually am a big fan of the Steelers' offense this year. I like Chase Claypool, even though I don't know why Ed's making that face over there. I like Chase Claypool because he is forgotten about, in my opinion, even though he did suck last year. Big Ben is kind of the reason I feel like for that. As far as his bench goes, there's not really much else that I like about it, honestly. I might as well just fucking get into the Thorns, to be honest, because I'm not really a big fan of, even though this was a good draft of where he was at. I don't really like DK at all. He burnt me hard as fuck last year. I don't know if there was a fucking low key, there was a beef between DK and Russell that the media didn't really like address or something, but Russ was just not looking his way at all. Josh Jacobs, I don't know. I want to like Josh Jacobs, but for some reason, like he's just ass. Like he was playing like first week of preseason. Like that's not a good sign if you're supposed to be a starting running back on your fucking team. Um, Zach Ertz, honestly, he low key might be good for like the first couple weeks, but like after like D Hop gets back and Hollywood gets churning with Kyler and D Hop comes back, it might not be too hot for him the second half of the season. As far as his bench, I do, like I said, I do like Claypool. Amari Cooper, who knows what the fuck he's gonna do because Jacoby Brissett is just like Jacoby Brissett. So Matt Stafford, I mean, it's kind of just like an irrelevant like pick on his bench. He can just be on waivers at this point. Robbie Anderson, DJ Chark. I mean, I'm saying this now, but like it's gonna be like week like 15. I mean, or like week 14, like over there, and these players are gonna be like top 3 in their position. But because Kenny's just enchanted like that. But overall, if I had to rate this team, like I'm giving this like a 4 out of 10, to be honest. This team is I don't know how this team is gonna be like good, but it's just like just some things that are out of your control that you just gotta sit back and just be like, you know what, fuck.
Yeah, I could agree with a lot that was said there. I got something to say about Kenny's team in the later section, but we'll move on. All right, so for my second team here, I have the New Jersey Sopranos. So what I said about Guy in the pre-draft process turned out to be true. Guy is someone who drafts very safely. He likes his safe picks. I said he was going to take Henry because he liked this just the safe, coddleness of Henry, and he took Henry. I can see the argument for Joe Mixon over him there because just Joe Mixon's in a very more high octane offense. But Henry, it's kind of hard to not take him there. It's King Henry. What do you? So I can't blame him for taking Henry. Maybe a more risk averse owner might have taken a Mixon route, but I still like the pick of Henry. I don't not like the pick. Leonard Fournette, I actually think I wasn't too high on Leonard Fournette before, but now I kind of like Leonard Fournette. He's really I don't think he's going to get his job taken by anybody in that backfield. I just didn't like the weirdness that was coming out of the Bucs camp, I guess. In the preseason, Brady was gone for like 12 days, and he came back and he was like, we're all dealing with personal shit off the field. And it was just a very weird kind of Brady comment, But, I mean, it's Brady, it's the Bucs. They're still going to be scoring. The head coaching change, I guess, worried me a little bit before, but I mean, I guess it's just whatever at this point. Brady, I guess, runs the team. From what I heard from Booger McFarland on fucking First Take, that's apparently what it's like down there. Once Brady enters the building, like, everybody just fucking gets their fucking best dress on, and it's like go time. But anyway, I think the Bucs are going to be a high-scoring team. Lenny's going to get all the goal line work. I really like just a running back who's getting the goal line work on a team with Brady under center because, Brady could get him in the red zone anytime he fucking wants. Keenan Allen has a pretty safe floor. I think he's a guy that might not see the touchdown volume, but he'll definitely see the targets. He'll probably get more work underneath than Mike Williams. I think for him, really, it's like 7 catches for like 60 yards is like easy for him. Like he could kind of do that in his sleep. Brandon Cooks, I don't really know if I'll put that on a rose on this team. Justin Herbert, Herbert is going to throw for 30-plus touchdowns for sure. I don't know how – he could run, but how much does he run? I don't really know. I haven't looked at the stats. But and then guys bench, I like Renfro. I like Renfro this year. I also like Miles Sanders for where he got picked at. I don't mind an 8th-round pick of Miles Sanders at all, considering who else is on the board. I'll take a shot at Miles Sanders in the 8th round anytime, really. Tyler Boyd, I don't know how I really feel about Tyler Boyd. He's kind of that third guy. But, again, if you're taking him late round, maybe T. Higgins goes down, Jamar goes down, and then you got the wide receiver 2 on a top 5 scoring offense. So, Michael Carter. I feel like where he took him, not a bad pick to have a handcuff. Maybe Breece Hall goes down, and then, he's got the backfield to himself. A lot of his late-round picks I kind of like. There's some guys that have a little upside. Freiermuth and Dawson Knox, I feel like could possibly be interchangeable there. Dawson Knox just really touchdown dependent. Isaiah Spiller, I don't really have any thoughts on him. Derek Carr on the bench, don't really have any thoughts on him either. I don't know why he really needs Derek Carr on the bench when he's got Herbert. But overall, I think Guy's team is a team that definitely can make the playoffs. He's got a lot of players that have a lot of safe roles and shoe-in roles on their team. Like Brandon Cooks is like the wide receiver 1 on the Texans. Keenan's the one guy. Godwin, I don't know how he'll be when he comes back. Herbert's going to be scoring touchdowns. King Henry's going to be King Henry. This is a team I think could definitely get into the playoffs. Now the Thorns section. What I don't like about Guy's team, I don't like the pick of Justin Herbert in the 4th round. Not even in the 4th round, but he took him 4th round pick 4 over guys like Waddle, A.J. Brown. Even Mahomes went at 10. I feel like if he didn't start the quarterback rush right after Allen, maybe Mahomes would have been there later in round 5. Who knows? Maybe not. But I just don't know if Herbert – obviously Justin Herbert's a great, great quarterback in real life, right? But I feel like the only way he pays off here is if he throws like 50 touchdowns and like 5,200 yards, Like I just don't think the rushing upside, he can run, but it's not like something he does as his first option or even like a heavily considered option, or he kind of does it when he really, really needs to. So I don't know if that'll really pay off for their round 4, pick 4 for Justin Herbert. Derrick Henry, coming off of what was his injury? He like broke his foot or some shit, right?
Yep.
he broke his foot, better than an ACL, but I just don't. The Titans now have like a bottom 5 ranked O line or bottom 7, something like that, according to PPF. They lost AJ Brown. I know they got Treylon Burks, but like he's not just gonna come out of the gate and replace AJ Brown like that. It's really a team where like, if I'm a fucking defensive coordinator, I'm telling everybody in the room like, yo, fucking look at Henry. Just play Henry. Like if fucking Treylon Burks and Robert Woods off of ACL tear and Ryan Tannehill want to like try and beat us deep, like so be it, but stop Henry at all costs, I just feel like the floor is there for Henry, but I'm not sure if the ceiling's as high as it was before. Leonard Fournette, honestly, don't really have anything bad to say about Leonard Fournette. I think he was a pretty good pick where he got him. Keenan Allen and Brandon Cooks, I just don't see a lot of upside there, like at that wide. Like, honestly, both of them might not even combine for like 15 touchdowns, like 15, 14 touchdowns. Like, who knows how many touchdowns Brandon Cooks really is going to score. He only scored 4 last year. He didn't really get a big QB upgrade. Oh, no, he scored 6 last year. My bad. Scored 6 last year. Didn't really get a QB upgrade. They got John Mechie, right? So maybe that helps. But either way, it's just offense not going to be explosive, not going to be red zone trip heavy offense. Brandon Cooks honestly passed his prime, really. And then you got Keenan Allen, who really came off of one of the – don't quote me on this, but I think it was one of his worst years, not counting an injury year. He had 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. There might even be a touchdown regression there, like if Mike Williams takes that step forward. So, I mean, if we're looking at already, his wide receiver 1 and 2 only combined for 12 touchdowns last year already. I don't know if I really see a significant uptick in touchdowns for them. So that kind of hurts you because I feel like wide receiver is that position in fantasy where you really – there's so many guys that could be those like really explosive players, and to just not have any explosiveness at wide receiver 1 or 2, it's kind of like a disadvantage. I already said Knox. Where he got Knox, I'm not really gonna knock that. Knox now, but touchdown dependent guy. But you can't always have a great tight end, so I'm not gonna knock him there. Chris Godwin though, with the 64th pick, tore his ACL in week 15. I mean, maybe he plays week 1. I don't know, but he's got him in the starting lineup. He's projected 15.4 points, but I don't know if I really like that pick in the 64th round or 64th pick over guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Bateman, London. I mean, he could have even gotten Kareem Hunt. I just don't know if I really like that pick with him coming off a really, really late torn ACL. And then when you look at his bench, as good as Sanders was for an 8th round pick for the upside, this guy can't stay healthy. Like, he kind of sucks. So, except for that 1 year, he had a pretty good year. Third and Renfro, I mean, he's not going to be scoring as many touchdowns because Renfro's not a guy who's taking the top off the defense. A lot of his touchdowns came in the red zone last year, and now they got statistically the best red zone receiver in Devontae Adams, who's going to be stealing all those red zone touchdowns. So, and then Tyler Boyd, if no one really goes down in that Bengals wide receiver room, he's not really going to be that great, I feel like. And then Michael Carter, Jets went out, drafted a guy with a 36th pick in the draft. Obviously, they didn't really think Michael Carter is going to be their guy moving forward if they're going to take another running back with the 36th pick. And so, yeah, I feel like this is a team that could really see if those safe floors like tend to not hit too often. Like, there's not really any explosiveness there that's going to really put him into that, like top 6 kind of team category there. So if the floors aren't hitting, I don't see anyone else making up for it anywhere else, really, is what I'm saying. So I
think that was a solid analysis of that team. Very well said. I'll take over here now, and we're going to look at Castro's Palace. So he'll have a nice front row seat.
We're doing ours last.
Oh, fuck. All right. That means we'll now look at Sonny's team. Let me find him. All right. I'm just going to call them Fear Peter's Tigers because I don't know what this Cook and Show Pandas is. But, wait, I had it. Where'd it go? All right, here we go. All right. So the roses for Sonny's team. He had the first overall pick. He made the safe pick of Jonathan Taylor at the 101. I can't see a world where Jonathan Taylor plays 17 games and doesn't finish in the top 5. So we don't really need to go on and on. We know who Jonathan Taylor is, what he brings to the table. Obviously, Sonny's counting on him to, be that steady, reliable producer for him week in and week out. And as long as he's on the field, I don't think he has anything to worry about, even with the Nike Hines camp buzz. Um, After that, I really like Lamar Jackson this year. Uh, the Ravens, you look at that team, they need him to really, put the team on his back and carry. We're going to see a lot of rushes from him, which is really going to elevate his production. I think Rashad Bateman takes that next step at receiver and, really produces between him and Mark Andrews. He has two steady, reliable pass catchers. Maybe they go out and get a guy like Odell Beckham or another, Will Fuller or something to help even more. I really like Gabriel Davis. I think he got him in a tremendous spot too. Obviously, he's one of the most hyped up offseason players we've seen. Everyone saw the 200-yard, 4-touchdown performance against Kansas City. He had a nice touchdown in the preseason. This is a guy who could very easily score 10, 12, 15 touchdowns in a top 5 passing offense. And he has him as his flex. That's pretty tremendous right there. That's a guy who can go out there and win you a week. Jonathan Taylor goes out there, maybe he only gets 10. Gabriel Davis is a guy who can drop 30. He has that in him. DJ Moore gets the big quarterback upgrade from Baker Mayfield. He's always been a reliable 1,000 yards, close to 100 catches, but he's never had the touchdowns. I mean, we don't need much from Baker Mayfield, but if he's any better than Kyle Allen's and, old Cam Newtons of the world, DJ Moore can easily jump into that top 10. And that's going to really end it for the things I'm in love with on Sonny's team. We'll kind of get into the Thorns now. I'm not as high on Deebo Samuel or Darren Waller this season. I think he got Deebo at an acceptable price point, but like we touched on earlier with Ayuk, I think the San Fran offense is, obviously they're changing gears with the quarterback change from Garoppolo to Trey Lance. Garoppolo, like you mentioned, loved the checkdowns. They would get Deebo the ball behind the line of scrimmage for receptions. With Lance, I think they're really going to try to expand upon the run game and push the ball downfield off play action. And it seems like Ayuk is going to be the kind of guy to stretch the field. I don't know if they're going to use Deebo in that same role. And then obviously the rushing Deebo had last year. I believe he had 8 touchdowns, which kind of made up for his lack of volume in the passing game. And, he's been vocal about not really being a fan of that role. Maybe he takes a step back in that regard. I don't think you can count on the Deebo Samuel rushing this year. If it happens, that's great. But overall, I think he finished in the top 5 last year. If he finishes in the top 15, I would be happy at that. But I don't even know if that's a guarantee, to be honest. Darren Waller hasn't practiced all offseason. He was a guy just on my do not draft board. If you're not on the field, especially getting up there in age, a lingering injury like the hamstring, it's just not a system. It's not an environment you want any stock in. They also brought in Devontae Adams. You can make the case for that helping him. I don't really see it from that perspective. I think he's aging. I think he's shown how fragile he is. He was hurt a good deal of last year as well. I want to say he paid a 5th or 6th round price point on him too, so I wasn't a huge fan of that. Damian Harris at RB2. The fact that he had the opportunity to get Ramondre Stevenson hurts because, in my opinion, he's the New England back to own. He's going to be used in the passing game. He could honestly just take over Damian Harris's role too. I know that's not how New England has operated in years past, but he's talented enough to do that. So I'm not a fan at all of Damian Harris. And you look at the bench, yeah, there's some guys in Kadarius Toney, Jahan Dotson. Mike Gesicki should not be rostered. James Robinson coming off the Achilles, what is his role really going to be? I do like James Cook. I think he has some upside. Maybe he could make up for, Damian Harris in that RB2 spot at some point. But overall, a good roster. They're going to be competing for a playoff spot. And, Sonny has that fire in him. He's going to be on waivers. He's going to maybe make a trade here and there. I don't think it's a bad team, but there's some players that me personally, I'm just not as high on. So.
Catherine, did you have your hand raised?
Oh, shit. My picture's dark as hell. I wasn't looking at it. Let me turn this brightness up. All right. That's it.
All right, Castro, you're up.
I was actually stroking Drake London's beard, but anyway, my next team is Wilson. You wish. Year 2 for Wilson. In the previous podcast, I actually think that Justin said that he was going to take a big leap this year, and for this evaluation, Joe Mixon and Travis Etienne to start with his running backs, and Zeke too. These 3 running backs I actually like. Obviously, Travis Etienne was supposed to be this big time player last year, but he obviously got hurt and he couldn't be on the field. This year, he looks to be a focal point of that Jacksonville offense, and I love that. I wish I could have had him, but honestly, there's been some things looming around Jacksonville though that have been pointing to the fact that it might not be the way that we think it is in Jacksonville with Travis Etienne being the star there. There might be some sort of 50-50 split there throughout the entire year, throughout the season. Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams. He's the best wide receiver in the league. I like that pick a lot. Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju is underrated this year, and I feel like he could actually have a huge year this year with Mahomes and Tyreek Hill not being there. Travis Kelce can't carry the entire team on his back. There needs to be someone else, whether it's going to be MVS or Juju. Everyone is going to have some sort of fantasy value on the Chiefs. Maybe not Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but as far as the receivers, they're going to be good. To be honest, Brian Robinson on the bench when he comes back is going to be a GOAT. Just kidding. But to be honest, as far as Wilson's team goes, again, I coincidentally just have a team where I don't really like that much. Well, not that I don't like it, but is that I just wouldn't draft the same way as he would have. Starting with players like Jerry Jeudy. I think that was in the. Let me check real quick. I think that was in the 4th round or 5th round where he took him. When I was looking at the draft board personally, and I see someone like Jerry Jeudy, I just don't see that like dog in him. You know what I mean? Like I just don't see that type of player being like fantasy, like a fantasy boom. I know there's Russell Wilson is Broncos country and all of that, but Jerry Jeudy has been in the league for what? This is his 3rd year now, and what has he done? I mean, there's not really a lot of people that I mean a lot of things on his resume that could show that he could still be like a nice receiver. Like, and if you could compare him to someone like a Michael Pittman or someone like that, where he has a big fantasy outlook this year. At least he's like done something, like in the like versus like the Ravens, like where he's just mossing like Marlon Humphrey, or he has those flashes of just being great. Jerry Jeudy he's just been there, and I guess in Denver they just assume that since Russell Wilson's going to come in, that every receiver is just gonna be good, and I don't really see that being the case. There's a lot of good players on that team, and Russell Wilson's a veteran, and I don't think he's just gonna like have that type of elevation where everyone is just gonna be good. They're gonna have some sort of offensive, what's the word, identity, and I think they're just gonna stick to it. Like I said, I'm trying to still find this shit. I can't find it. Where he took him.
Judy,
Yeah. Oh, it was a 5th-round pick.
back of the 5th. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 5th-round pick, and so I could just read some people off right now. Like for example, Ed took A-Rob. I would have rather had A-Rob over Judy. To be honest, if you wanted to just say fuck it, like for the first 6 weeks, I don't care I'll just stream someone or I'll just reach for someone back. DeAndre Hopkins, I would rather have. I would have rather had Amra St. Brown. Like these players that I think that have a bigger upside than Judy does. I don't know why. I just feel like people are just holding on to his draft where he was drafted in like the actual NFL draft. That like he's like still good and he can still do this. Like he needs to have at least some sort of like highlights or some sort of like self identity to his game, and I can't really pinpoint it other than his like uh his draft stock that when he was entering the fucking NFL. Um, although I say all of that, he does have KJ Hamler, which honestly I rather like him better than fucking Jerry Judy because KJ Hamler, he was a 2nd-round pick. I'm pretty sure, right?
Not sure.
Yeah, he was a 2020 2nd-round pick, and honestly, he might be a better pick than he might be a Tyler Lockett this year. Who knows? And if that does pan out for Wilson, then that's great. But there's other players that I just see, and I'm just like Ed said before about like the draft board, like you had like do not draft like Darren Waller. There's like a bunch of these players that I have do not draft. Like even though like in the fantasy chat this evening it was like Ramondre Stevenson like could be like what no bro like it's the fucking Patriots like come on like who's gonna be the this like big time like there's like what was the last Patriot that was like a top 5 or top 10 like fantasy player in like the past like couple years, like other than like maybe James White, and now he's gone. Ramondre Stevenson might be that. Like I'm not banking on that. Elijah Moore, I do like my Jets, so Elijah Moore could be good, but like I said, on that team, I'll get to it later because I have to speak on other players on other teams. I do like the Jets, but there might be too many people on that team too. Kenneth Walker, Jacoby Myers, Tua. No, I don't really fuck with that. Like that bench is I don't really like that shit. I mean he does have like, who is this quarterback again? He does have Dak. I mean who knows what the Cowboys are gonna be on this year.
It's gonna be shit this year, dude.
So I mean hopefully I mean Ed, you did have him ranked in front of me, so I do know I don't know if it's just that, but I don't like this team either. Like this is just another team that just might be just mid.
All right. So I think it's my turn again, right?
Yeah.
All right. So back with me now. I have the 2-time back-to-back Itrad fantasy champion, none other than Love Hurts, Kevin Wynn. Gotta give him his flowers, back-to-back champ. Give him his credit where credit's due. Starting off with the roses, I really, really like Kevin's running backs in this situation. I really, really like Kevin's running backs here. I mean, he doubled up on Kamara and Swift. I just like when your team is that solid at running back, like it's kind of way easier to navigate the rest of your season when you don't have to worry about running back. Brady, I was talking about the Bucks before. I think I'm a little bit higher on the Bucks now than I was in the pre-draft process. Brady's been back at practice, according to fucking what's his name, old coach of the not the Cardinals, the fucking Bucks. What's the fuck's his name?
Arians?
Yeah, Arians was on ESPN the other day and claimed that Brady was throwing the best balls he has his entire career. Like that's what Bruce Arians had to say. So Brady, maybe he had 50 touchdowns last year, right?
50? He led the league in passing. I don't know if he had 50.
He had 43 last year. So maybe he throws for 40 touchdowns again, So then that was a late round, so he really didn't have to spend a high premium on a QB. Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson. I'd like McLaurin more, I guess, because McLaurin's always had an ass quarterback, and he's been fine. Deontay, I mean, it's really question mark at QB. I don't really know what's going to happen there. There's a lot of mouths to feed, too, in that Steelers offense. But, I mean, Deontay could pan out, like, pretty well. Same thing with McLaurin. You know, both guys are playmakers, so there's a lot of upside there. Dalton Schultz, Gallup's gone. Well, not gone, but Gallup's out. Mari Cooper's gone. Cedric Wilson's gone. So really, for Dak, it's like the two guys he knows is Dalton Schultz and CeeDee Lamb. So maybe Dalton Schultz has a better year now that all those guys are gone. Maybe it clears the way for him to really elevate into that like elite fantasy option for a tight end. Elijah Mitchell, I mean, guy broke out last year and was just like a beast, you know, in that second half stretch. He's in the 49ers, you know, always good to have the 49ers starting running back, you know. Garoppolo gone, maybe Lance takes away some of that rushing, but we'll get into that. On the bench, my Rose on the bench, he's got the best handcuff in the league. He's got Alexander Madison. For some reason, every time Dalvin Cook goes down, this guy just gets 20 points off rip, like literally no questions asked. Like if Dalvin Cook's gone, you know Alexander Madison's getting 20 points. Like doesn't matter for some reason. Like this guy just goes off whenever Dalvin's gone. Like Khalil Herbert, I don't really know anything about that Bears running back room. Maybe you know more than I do. No upside there.
I mean, if Montgomery gets hurt, but people are saying he's going to have standalone value. Like I don't see that at all. He's just a handcuff.
All right, so then we got Albert O, a guy who's been a big sleeper like around the fantasy world this year. Maybe he's got playmakers on his team, so maybe everyone else focusing on those guys, and he, gets freed up for a little. Mecole Hardman and DeAndre Hopkins, Hopkins comes back in week 7, right? Yeah, Hopkins comes back week 7, so Kevin could win 4 games by then, and then he gets Hopkins back, and that makes his lineup even stronger. Hopkins is a guy who's been a top wide receiver the past couple years. So a lot of upside for this lineup, really, a lot of upside. If Brady is back in form like he was last year, if Kamara comes back, Swift has a nice year, McLaurin and Deontay find their way, through the bad QB play, Schultz levels up, just a lot of guys who could, do a lot of damage if they hit their ceilings. I see a lot of upside for this team. Now, the downside to this team, Alvin Kamara let me just get this straight. I have no idea what the state of Alvin Kamara's suspension situation is. I don't know if he's supposed to get suspended this season, so don't quote me on anything. But if he were to get suspended, that'd be a big hit for his team. DeAndre Swift, I don't really have anything bad to say about Swift. I really like him this year. But Terry McLaurin and Deontay Johnson, I mean, it's just they're those guys that, yes, they're extremely talented wide receivers, playmakers, route runners, the whole 9 yards. But it's when your QB just fucking sucks, it's just there's not really that much that they could do, And it's quite a possibility where on a week-to-week basis, these guys just don't get what they deserve from their QB and are getting you 6-7 points maybe because they just can't score touchdowns. I think that I'm kind of worried about those 2 wide receivers just because of how bad the QB play is. Last season, McLaurin only had 1,053 yards and 5 touchdowns playing with who was the quarterback? What the fuck was that guy's name?
Heineke,
yeah. Wentz is an upgrade over Heineke, yeah, but Wentz fucking sucks too. So, And then Deontay, I feel like that connection he had with Big Ben, Ben liked him. Ben didn't throw deep a lot, but when he did, he liked finding Deontay. So Mitch, Kenny Pickett sucks. Mason Rudolph's not starting. So it's I don't know what's going to happen with those QBs. Maybe Mitch likes Chase Claypool and he likes George Pickens, So, but you don't know. It's just a question mark there. Both of those wide receivers have big question marks at quarterback. Maybe Wentz likes fucking Jahan Dotson. You don't know. They're not. I don't like the wide receivers because they're not stable at all with who they have at QB. Dalton Schultz. I honestly kind of like Dalton Schultz, where he got him. I know, You didn't like him? Well, I don't know. You were just kind of like capping because you drafted him in another league. But I think he'll do good this year. I think Schultz will do good. Mitchell, though, has been nursing a hamstring injury. The 49ers running back is like, I just never want to draft the 49ers starting running back to start the season because it's just like this endless cycle of like the number one guy always just goes down and then some fucking random comes in and it's like, the next fucking coming of Frank Gore for like 8 games, like, and I don't know. I just wouldn't have drafted Mitchell really at that position at 60th. Hopkins, I don't know. Hopkins, even when he was playing last year, he wasn't, the DeAndre Hopkins of old. So I feel like to have him as a brick for 6 weeks too, as well, like, God forbid you only start off winning 2 or 3 games, like, and he comes back and he's not great, it's just like a bad combination. Poor Tyler Lockett. I mean, I just don't know if I could see the guy having a good season with Geno Smith at starting QB. Like, that's got to be the worst starting QB in the league, right? Easily.
Probably, yeah.
Like, and then don't have anything bad to say about Madison. Albert O, apparently from what I've seen on some reports is that he's like more of the blocking tight end kind of guy. Mecole Hardman, I feel like Mecole Hardman's had his chances so long and he just never has done anything with it. But yeah, Kevin, another team where like, things go right, which are definitely in the range of possible outcomes. Like, he'll definitely be up there contending. But I feel like if shit hits the fan for him, it's gonna hit the fan hard. Like, especially if Kamara gets suspended. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, spot on. I believe I'm up next, and we're going to take a look at Mike and Kearney Satriales. So, start with the positive, as always here. Mike started off with his first and second pick being wide receivers with Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, who I personally like a lot, but I think it's worth noting that there is some downside baked into them, not major. But with Jamar Chase, me personally, I think he's going to be even better this year. But last year, he relied on like extreme efficiency rather than consistent volume. I mean, we saw every week it was like 50-yard touchdown, 40-yard touchdown, somehow every week, and especially to start off his career. I think his first 3 weeks, he had like a 40-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
One game against, I think it was the Packers, he had like fucking 3 points, and then he caught that fucking like 60-yard touchdown with like 3 minutes left.
Yeah. And honestly, that one play is like all you need for the week. Anything on top of that is,
yeah,
welcome. It's gravy. But I think Cincinnati upgraded. They made it a focus, upgrade their offensive line. That should, in theory, give Burrow some more time in that pocket to get more passes down the field. So I think Chase sees more volume and sees more production, but I think it's worth noting that that's not a guarantee. They didn't go out and sign Hall of Fame tackles and guards. Their line still, it's upgraded, but it's not the best. So we'll have to see, how many targets is he seeing a game? Is he going to have to rely on efficiency, or will he have some more volume? With CD, there was a lot of hype around him last year. I got him in the 3rd round last year. I was over the moon. I thought for sure, top 10 receiver. He's just that talented. He had that kind of upside. But, the targets were kind of inconsistent. And, now Amari Cooper's out of town. Gallup's hurt. This is his offense. He should see, honestly, no less than 8 targets a game. But in years past, I guess more of a thorn baked into CeeDee Lamb. Dak has been one to kind of spread the ball around, give, what's the dude who looks like CeeDee Lamb, like his name? Like, you'll get a guy like that.
He's like 88, or what's CD?
Noah Brown.
Like
Noah
86. Yeah, Noah Brown, yeah.
Looks just like him. Dak's going to give a guy like that 4 or 5 targets a game. It's not a guarantee. He just locks into CD, and, there are 100 yards and a touchdown every week. I mean, it's more of a rose. You got Lamb at a great point, especially in the 2nd round where, shit kind of hit the fan and we started seeing a little bit of reaching on that running back run. I think Mike started off the draft in a great way with Chase and Lamb. I just wanted to highlight that there is some negatives. They're not sure things. Other things I like about Mike's team a lot, I think Jalen Waddle as his flex. That's exactly what you want from your flex. Week in and week out, consistent floor production. But I mean, Waddle is talented enough to have those boom weeks. We saw him and Tua have a really good connection, last year in his rookie year. Yeah, they have Tyreek Hill, but I think Tua and Waddle, they already have that Rappaport, and I don't see that going anywhere. Um, to me, TJ Hawkinson, he's not a rose, he's not a thorn, he's just a guy. I don't think he spent a crazy price on him. I think he'll have his nice weeks, but I think he said something about him finishing as a top 3 tight end. That's just not going to happen. This guy will finish somewhere between 6 and 10, and you're happy with that. You take what he gives you. Now at running backs, this is where it gets a little tricky with Mike because, I'm a bit more optimistic on his backs, but maybe I shouldn't be. J.K. Dobbins in the 3rd round. Obviously, more has come out since the time of our draft that it's looking less and less likely that he's going to be on the field week 1. So obviously, being absent, that's definitely going to be a thorn. But I think Dobbins can still pay off that 3rd round, price that he paid on him. I think it's just going to come around week 8, week 9 when he, has a chance to get back in the swing of things and, really pick up some steam. I don't think that's just going to happen right away. They're probably going to have him on a snap count when he finally does get on the field, and then he has to prove that, he could still produce. I think he got a great value on David Montgomery in the 5th round. And as your RB2, that's not going to be the reason you lose a week. I just don't think he's necessarily the flashy play. So I kind of feel the same way about Hawkinson as I do with him. Not necessarily a rose, not a thorn. I think he got Murray in a good point. We saw some quarterbacks reached on. We saw Herbert and Mahomes both go in the 5th round, and they don't have or 4th round rather, and they don't have nearly as much rushing upside as Murray. So Mike did a solid job getting him where he did. And we look at Mike's bench, and I think it's one of the better ones in the league. Allen Lazard, me personally, I'm not a believer in him being the next Davante Adams. But, we saw, what's his name, their tight end score well over 10 touchdowns. Robert Tonyan 2 years ago. You don't have to be super talented to catch touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers. The yardage may fluctuate a little bit, but as a guy, it's his 4th receiver. He's probably not even going to see his starting lineup until bye weeks. I think that's a really solid guy to have there. Nyheim Hines, we've all heard the offseason buzz about his reception goal. That's another guy who you could plug into your flex if you had to. And honestly, maybe he sees the start with J.K. Dobbins unlikely for week 1. Darrell Henderson, he's got to be a top 3. I wouldn't even label him as just a handcuff because I think he is going to see some usage regardless if Akers is 100% or not. And then Devontae Parker, I mean, he's the Patriots' #1 receiver. Again, not a flashy play, but, these are the kind of guys who round out a fantasy roster. And Russell Gage is another one, not a flashy name, but he's going to have his weeks, especially with Godwin, either getting off to a slow start or being absent completely. He's going to have his chance to, put up flex numbers as well. Thorns on the team, we kind of touched on mostly. Obviously, it's kind of a joke, but the low-hanging fruit of Mike Davis. No one wants Mike Davis. We saw him tossed around the league like garbage. I think he was involved in at least 5 trades last year, maybe more. But Raheem Mostert, I mean, you'll take what you can get until he gets hurt on like the 2nd drive of the season. Other than that, I mean, Mike's team, I don't see a lot of like crazy roses or crazy thorns. I think it's a well-balanced team, one that's going to produce throughout the season. And, obviously he has a lot riding on Dobbins. They could really hit their stride in the later half of the year. So that's all I got.
Castro, we'll do one more because we're already at the hour mark here, and I got to do some things, and but I want to get to the other 2 segments. So do yours. So do Diego, because that was the last one. People will be watching, and then we'll go to the other segment.
Okay, so I have Diego Juniors with the Kenny Pickett picture. Starting off, one thing I do want to say about his team that I love is Najee. I will say this right now. One of the players that I was actually thinking about getting, if I didn't get CMC, was Najee Harris. He was probably he was in my mind. I mean, Nick, if you're watching this, he
Absolutely.
knows. Yeah, he knows. I was actually it was either him, Justin Jefferson, and I I know he's gonna be good this year. It's sad because he does have a lot of haters like Ed. But I love Najee. I mean, this team, I like the Steelers a lot. If you think that Mitch and Kenny Pickett's gonna come in and just start slinging balls to their receivers like it's nothing to begin like the entire season, it's not gonna happen. I mean,
Wish you took Najee at 3. Why didn't you?
because I mean, it's just I just can't pass on CMC. I just had to take my fucking slap on the wrist. If he gets hurt, then it's whatever. But I mean, I couldn't just take Najee because I knew he was gonna fall like far as fuck. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I mean, I already changed the draft with JJ. I was going at 2, and hopefully that fucking shoots him in the fucking foot over there in Cleveland. But yeah, I do like Najee a lot. His second also his other running back who I also was trying to get. I mean, he basically just drafted like a team that I would have drafted. I feel like if I like around my position because I could have very well came around with Najee, and then in the second round a lot of my mocks had Javante in it, and I do like Javante. Um, Again, I don't think Melvin Gordon is going to be absent, but this is definitely going to be another up year, and Javante. It could be Javante's year. It could be like kind of like a Jonathan Taylor type thing where, like the first year was like, we're just gonna ease him into the year, ease him into the season, and then the very next year he's just gonna break out. A lot of people love Javante. A lot of people are high on this Broncos offense. He has Russell Wilson too. I mean, to be honest, I do like the Broncos, but like at the same time, like there's just too much to where like they have like some sort of ceiling with these players. Michael Pittman, coming from me, I think that Michael Pittman is just going to be what he was last year. I mean, he's just going to be good. He's a good wide receiver, but he's not going to like be a wide receiver one like he has him right now. I mean, there's a lot of people who think that Michael Pittman is just going to take off because Matt Ryan's on the team. I mean, he again another veteran quarterback coming to this team. He's not gonna discriminate. Whoever's open is gonna get the fucking ball. Um, Marquise Hollywood Brown, another player that I was eyeing on my draft board too. I like him a lot. I kind of wish he didn't leave the Ravens because now he's with Kyler Murray, and now there's a lot of better players on this team. I mean, I think the Cardinals have a better offense than the Ravens do, even though the Ravens have a better quarterback. Um, Mike Williams, there's I like Mike Williams. Last year he had a really nice year, the year that everyone was been waiting for. I mean, he kind of just like came out. I mean, Justin Herbert had a great year. I mean, Julian joked about it in the chat. Like, it only takes like one injury on this wide receiver core to like everyone else to just fucking step up. So that's also a good pick. I mean, Amon St. Brown, he's a good player. I mean, he I like him. I mean, this Lions offense could have. Well, I mean, if Jameson Williams was around, this offense could have been crazy. I mean, Jared Goff's not really gonna get as far as Jared Goff's gonna get you, but I mean, Amra can still get the ball. Cordell Patterson, my beloved from last year. I mean, I do like the Falcons too. I'm not sure how it's going to pan out, with this guy. I love him too, Mariota. I obviously love this guy too. I love Kyle Pitts. I love Cordell Patterson. If Calvin Ridley was playing like this would have been a sneaky ass team. Like, I mean, their secondary is nice too. Like, come on, like this might be good this year. Like, actually, I mean, this NFC South is actually low key they're kind of stacked, but as far as players go, um, um, Garrett Wilson, Jets are the Jets. I mean, every player can be fucking good on that team. Um, uh, Now I'm gonna start with my dislikes. Starting off, I mean, I'm gonna start with the bench. Kenny Pickett. I'm not sure if he just has him for clout or if he actually thinks that he's gonna play. I mean, he is the favorite to win Rookie of the Year this year, so it's not really like out of the it's not out of the ordinary that he could start soon. I mean, he's just gonna be waiting on it though. Like I was waiting on Trey Lance last year, thinking that maybe he was gonna play like he was gonna play this year, but that never even happened. So who knows? Mitch can play. He can start like the first three weeks, and if they're 3-0, they're not going to fucking start Kenny Pickett. I mean, that's just how it's going to go. Obviously his tight end position. I mean, he didn't go tight end like that early, I don't think. So that's why he's kind of weak there. I mean, you could probably try to find someone on waivers. That's like nitpicking at that point. I mean, Hunter Henry's not fucking good, and he's pretty ugly too. Nico Collins. I don't even, to be honest, I don't even know who the fuck that is. So he, I do like his team though. I mean, out of all the teams that I commented on, this is probably the best team out of the three that I was talking about. His team is going to be pretty good this year. He's going to be a playoff team. He's a good drafter. I mean, I guess we'll see. He has a very high floor, I will say. So as far as the ceiling, I don't know, but yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, there goes our roses and thorns. So for the next segment, from what we'll go one person. We'll do. I'll give one person one of the things. We're not gonna all go through the entirety of the draft segment. All right. So start off, Ed. I want you to go over. Actually, no. I want Castro. Who do you think you had the? Who did you have having the best draft?
Oh, okay. You said that. All right. Well, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna go with. I was kind of stuck because I thought that the segment was gonna be who was the best draft pick, but I mean, it's probably um, other than what we can't talk about ourselves, but I would probably go with Diego because just coming, like I was just saying, coming from the perspective of if I was like I was commenting on the past three teams, I was just looking at as if I was drafting and what I would have done. Diego would have done exactly what I would have done, and if he was in his position, and I really like his team, so I think he actually might have had the best draft, but I don't think that's gonna really equate to him having like the best overall season, per se. So he did have a good draft. I mean, all these players, you know what you're getting. Like these players are good players, and I don't really see them flopping, to be honest.
Ed.
Best draft?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much a carryover from my rankings. I have Nick and Wilson. I don't want to just pick one. I think they both had excellent drafts. And I mean, should I get more into it? I feel like I already kind of
to it really a lot. So we'll go over the worst draft. Now before we start worst draft, let me get something clear because I know this person's not going to be happy with what I have to say. Worst draft does not mean worst team, nor does it mean I think this team's not going to do anything this year, right? When I say worst draft, I say it in a way where I think players could have been picked at different picks that would have made the team better, right? Now, so for my worst draft, I have Guy in the New Jersey Sopranos. And as I said before, Guy's team has a very good floor. I think the team will get to the playoffs. But I feel like a lot of his picks, he could have taken someone else that in the second half of the season would have elevated his team. For say his first round pick, I think he should have taken Mixon over Henry in the first round. In the second round, I didn't mind his pick with Fournette. I think Fournette was actually a pretty good pick there. Then in the third round, he took Keenan Allen. I would have taken someone with a way more explosive, higher ceiling than Keenan Allen, to be honest. I think Courtland Sutton might have been a better pick. Even honestly, I don't mind an ETN pick there, or I just don't see Keenan Allen doing that much this year. I don't think we're worth it in the third round. Then in the fourth round, he took Justin Herbert, which I don't think that's going to pay off either. I think he could have taken another dynamic wide receiver guy that has a higher ceiling there at that pick. And then he took Brandon Cooks, where I would have taken like Judy. Next three picks after that were Judy, A-Rob, Elijah Mitchell, which I think all probably would have been better than taking Brandon Cooks there. I don't see the ceiling on Brandon Cooks. The ceiling on those other three guys are way higher. Judy and Robinson, It's going to be an high-scoring offense. You have something you want to say?
All right, to be fair, because I know this kid's probably fuming if he's watching it. During the draft, I mean, like for example, everyone's draft is going to be different because, people are going to have better drafts, people are going to have worse drafts, just basically based off where they're picking. Because if you're picking around people who are actually doing good, you might not be doing as hot because they might be taking players from you. And I know when we were drafting, guy was saying that Diego was taking picks from him, and like him or like Wilson. Which if you like if we like bring all of our picks together, Ed, you said that Wilson had a good draft. I said that Diego had a good draft, and the person who's sandwiched between those two is Guy. And a lot of people that he probably would have like could have had aren't going to be there because he just picked people based off for example, when you were saying someone like Justin Herbert, like if he was probably thinking in his mind, maybe I'll get like Zeke. And when you get to that pick and you want Zeke, or if you want someone that you want, and then someone picks before you, and they take the player that you want, instantly your mind is like, fuck, like you're panicking at this point. And he just started panic picking. So that's kind of like what he did. I mean, like after.
That's what I'm saying. I think a lot of dynamic, more explosive, higher ceiling players went like a pick and the pick right after him where he picked people. But again,
Yeah,
he's
like
not bad. I don't think he has a bad team. I just think there was a lot of positions where he took a guy with a safe floor rather than like high ceiling, and I think it's gonna make his team lack explosiveness this year. But we could go on to biggest reach now. Ed, who'd you have for the biggest reach in the draft?
Well, let's check it out. Oh, well, we're talking about Guy. Justin Herbert, round 4, pick 4, provides virtually none. Like he might score 1, maybe 2 rushing touchdowns this year, maybe 200 rushing yards. But this guy, I mean, he's known for his arm talent, pushing the ball down the field. And yeah, he's a great fantasy quarterback. But right after him goes Mike Williams, a guy who can score 15 touchdowns and no one lived twice. A.J. Brown, honestly, a top 10 talent at the position, whether or not he gets the volume. But everything we're just talking about, prolific wide receiver with upside. So, you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. Going on, seeing AJ Brown, the biggest steal. I had AJ Brown as the biggest steal in the draft. He really fell. I mean, Kenny, like he took DK Metcalf over him. DK Metcalf starting QB is Geno Smith. How many touchdowns is Geno Smith throwing to DK Metcalf this year?
Hopefully 8.
Oh man, but yeah, that was kind of a steal. Castro, who'd you have having the biggest steal?
Biggest steal, probably. All right, first of all, that was my fan. I thought it was muted. Anyway, but I think I had the biggest steal, who also might have had the biggest reach, Julian. Um, while I was drafting my team, I was plotting. Obviously, you have to like look ahead. And when I was around probably round 6, was it? Was when I was picking. Like I said, when you have people around, you gotta in the draft order, you have to see who you think they're gonna pick and like when they're gonna pick them. And I was thinking about getting like my rookies receivers that I love. And Julian actually got Olave in the 8th round. I chose Robert Woods there, but I was thinking that Olave was going to be there around like maybe around late round 10, but he chose him. And I love Chris Olave because 1, he's suave, and 2, the Saints offense is going to be fucking lit this year. And I wanted a piece of it when I picked Mike Thomas. If Kamara's not there, and they have to run the ball with like someone like Mark Ingram, and they need to fucking throw the rock around. Jameis doesn't give a fuck. He's gonna throw that shit, and Olave's gonna be there, down there somewhere, and so is MT. So I think he's gonna be really good this year. Hopefully, he doesn't break out too hard, because I don't have him. But yeah, that's who I love, Chris Olave, Suave.
And who'd you have for biggest whiff?
Biggest whiff, round 8, pick 5 by the Jacob Juniors, Devin Singletary over Trey Lance. needs a quarterback. I believe he was on the FaceTime call, scoffs at my advice, and goes with Devin Singletary over Trey Lance. I don't see. Yeah, he plays for the Bills. Yeah, he was good down the stretch. They brought in James Cook for the passing down work. Zach Moss is a beloved pass protector. I mean, somehow they're going to split up that role between Cook and Moss. Devin Singletary, first and second down usage in an offense with Josh Allen. So you even get to the goal line, and it's not even a guarantee he's the one scoring it or he's the one in there. Yeah, it's no guarantee Trey Lance pops off, but he has everything at his disposal for him to pop off. He has safe players like Najee in his lineup. Why not go for some upside there? Beats me. This is why, the Diego Juniors haven't found too much success in the Itrad fantasy playoffs.
Damn.
All right. Well, with that being said, we're going to go on to our newest segment here. Let me give the credit where it's due. Came up by our former co-host here, Castro, had an idea. We're going to be starting this season the Cage Watch. Everybody knows fantasy punishment now this year. You've seen the videos. You know what it is. You get thrown in a fucking dog cage, and you just have your pride and your manhood just stripped of you as you just sit there and just, have a bunch of shit poured on you, ketchup, fucking mayonnaise, whatever the fuck you want to put besides, bodily fluids, obviously.
Jesus.
So
Wait,
throughout
no
the
bodily
season,
fluids?
yeah, no bodily fluids. All right, we don't none of that gay shit. Oh fuck, wait, I can't say that on here. Oh my god.
That's
Anyway, so we're gonna be doing the Cage Watch for every episode. It's kind of just like a not like a power ranking, but who's on the cage, like who's looking like they're gonna be in the cage. As we go week to week, like who's in the cage. So we're gonna have our preseason Cage Watch here. I'm gonna start off with who I have in the spotlight for the Cage Watch. I have Kenny. Okay. Now, talk about the Cage Watch. This has nothing to do with what the team, I mean, somewhat, but, not everything has to do with what the team looks like now. But we all know Kenny is not going to manage his team to its fullest potential. I feel like every year it kind of gets worse and worse with him. And now we're doing free agency bidding, and it's like, okay, this kid's either not going to use any of his money or he's going to spend $175 on fucking Marvin Jones after week 1, after he somehow scores fucking 3 touchdowns, week 1. So I think as the season goes on, this kid doesn't make roster moves. God forbid one of this kid's early round picks gets hurt. He's not making any trades or anything. So I think something's gonna happen with his team, and he's not gonna manage his roster, and I feel like it's gonna end up putting him in the cage at the end. Ed?
So for me, I mean, it's kind of the low-hanging fruit of the cardiac kids. I mean, God forbid something were to happen to Justin Jefferson, we might as well put him in the cage right then and there, because there's just no avenue in which he could avoid that. But I mean, even with a healthy Justin Jefferson, that lineup, it's just, I don't want to get too into it. He's in danger, though. He is definitely a top 3 candidate to be put in that cage, and I don't really see that changing. So,
Castro?
Chloe. Anyway, all right, so Ed, I was gonna say the same person. First of all, I was just looking at this team, and for some reason, other than Kareem Hunt, there's no kicker on this team. Literally, there's no kicker. I'm not joking. There's no kicker on the team. I don't know how.
I saw that.
I don't know how that's a thing, but yeah, he is number 1 for me because he drafted Jay Jettas. This kid. He's in his own head. He's got something's in his head telling him different things. He has voices in his head like Randy Orton. He doesn't know what to do sometimes in certain situations. He picked Jay Jettas, I think, just because he just did it because he didn't want CMC. He didn't want to get Brown CMC. Okay, you rather take that CMC because Jay Jettas, if you take him, you better draft a good team around him because if you don't, then the team's fucking ass. Because if, like you said, Ed, if something happened to him, which I don't want anything to happen to him, But because if something happened to him, his team's done for. Um, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Dameon Pierce. I mean, Dameon Pierce is just another. He's like a TikTok running back. Like, oh, you know what's gonna blow up this year? Dameon Pierce. Here's why. Because and then they just give like
Top 5
fucking,
running backs that you need to draft.
yeah, like just bullshit. Like, no, dude, he's a Texans running back. Like, that's all you need to know. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has never been relevant. Ed, you know that he's just fucking irrelevant as fuck. He is on the Cage Watch, and I don't know that I'm not gonna say any names, but there is some people that I've talked to that said that they would enjoy to see him in the cage. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say any names. I'm not gonna throw him out there, but he could be there. Because like you said last year, this kid was in the bathroom at Taylor Sam's
Is
contemplating.
the biggest head case in the fantasy football league by far.
He was literally just contemplating his life in the Taylor Sam's fucking bathroom while he was working. Like, come on now, like, the fuck.
Like fucking like 2:00 on a fucking Wednesday. Like,
Yeah. It self-implodes. I don't know, man.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows? This is before the season even starts. We can be totally wrong in like 6-7 weeks. This kid might have the fucking best team in fantasy somehow. But that's why this segment has to be a weekly thing, because we're saying this now, and then who knows? One of us can be on Cage Watch throughout the fucking season. I know I would love to see. I'm not gonna say who, but one of you in the fucking cage.
Yeah, it's not me, right?
All right. Well, wow, that was a long episode. We're at 1 hour 21 minutes and 30 seconds right now. That was a lot. Well, if you really watched up until this point, we love our supporters, Hopefully we can get more. We beg every week, bro. We want more people on the podcast. We want everyone getting involved. We just want to make everything as enjoyable and lit as possible with this league. So if you watched all the way to this point, next week, get your ass on the podcast. All right. It's about time some of you, Wilson, Nick, Sonny, Guy, fucking get your ass on the fucking podcast. All right. Because I
know you're not doing shit.
And so, yeah, again, just thanks for watching up until this point. Anything you guys want to say to anyone before we log off?
I think you nailed it. Yeah, thank you guys if you watched all the way through. I think we put out some solid content here today. Obviously, the hype couldn't be any more real for the start of the regular season. Going forward, honestly, wish everyone injury-free season, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. But yeah, solid episode.
Yeah. Just speaking to my future self here, when we watch this podcast, in January and December, we're gonna either be looking retarded or we're gonna be looking smart as fuck. Some people might be winning, some people might be losing. You never know. That's why we do these podcasts for history.
We're not afraid to put our opinion out there. Some people just want to, like Castro's favorite phrase, just want to be after the fact talkers. We don't do that here. We put it out there, and if you're wrong and you get shit on, whatever, you take it.
Yeah, like there's some trades that are gonna be going down through the season. Then there's gonna be like 6 weeks later, they're gonna be like, well, why'd you do this? Like, come on now, like you have to see ahead.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Wish everyone an injury-free season, except for Julian, because he was on some weird shit in the group chat. That was some weird-ass shit he said. I hope someone gets injured for his team after that shit. But yeah, other than that, good luck to everybody. Hope we have just another phenomenal season. Our league just grows litter and litter every year. So, yeah, that's really it. So we're signing off here. Peace to everyone. And we're 6 days away from the first football game. So we'll see you all here after next Sunday, where we'll have plenty to talk about. And so we're signing off now. So peace.